So, welcome to episode 27 of the More Life podcast. We're back a bit later than expected, but we're back. It's the most important thing. And today's podcast, off the cuff, but it's going to be brilliant and you're going to enjoy it. And there's going to be a lot of perspective that's going to allow you to understand how you're actually truly unlimited and the fact that you're born unlimited and you learn all these limitations. I'm going to genuinely speak you through how to remove those limitations, how they were formed, what they are, why the limiting beliefs exist. That's my part in today. So get excited because I'm going to literally help you become unlimited in this podcast. What are you going to talk about, Jack?
Put me in the spot. Today, well, we can't
Don't be nervous, bro.
we can't bypass the client wins that we've been experiencing recently. The work that we're doing is life changing, and so I'm probably going to touch on some client wins, some big transformations that I'm seeing with my clients, because a lot of people watching this podcast can hopefully tap it. Well, they can tap into the work as well if you're not complacent and you want to prioritize probably the only thing that you should above all else, which is your health, which I see a lot of complacency around. So probably talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, let's start with my shit. Is that all right?
When you go.
So, when I say we're born unlimited, you're not born into it. Let's speak about money because I feel like money blocks is the main thing that holds most people back, is thinking that, say, $1 million is a lot of money, but it's understanding how did that get into your mind? Like, why do you feel like it's hard to become a millionaire? I want people to know this because ultimately, let's give the example. Imagine you grow up and your family are billionaires and all you see is so much abundance, unlimited funds. Your dad's taking phone calls and making £1 million in a phone call. Your perception of money is in abundance. It's very easy to make money. The reason why I want to start with this is because most people that will watch this podcast, and most people in Scotland actually, I've had a big kind of shift in my mind recently around how I want to help the people in Scotland, not just the world or high ticket or anything like that, or working with millionaires, but actually how I can start to make more people aware that they actually are truly unlimited. So the scenario where you're born as a millionaire, your associations with money, what you believe to be true about money is that it's in abundance, okay? But what happens, and I'll speak from my personal experience, and if anyone resonates, you resonate. I think most people will, especially if you're watching this podcast. You grow up, and what happens is you form these things called subconscious associations. And how these subconscious associations are formed is you have an experience, either a direct personal experience or an observation, and we're speaking about money, that money is hard to make. And how the subconscious association is formed is you have an experience, either through, as I said, a direct experience or an observation, and that's paired with a negative emotion. And any negative emotion that you experienced with a high intensity leaves a longer lasting or a stronger subconscious association. Again, in relation to money, the example might be you grew up and all you observed, like we did, was our mum was stressed out about money. We were taught that money equals stress. That's what our subconscious mind started to form as an association. And as I said, the more negative the emotion is, the stronger it sticks. And the reason for that is because our subconscious mind, the job and the role of the subconscious mind is to keep us alive. So any negative emotion that we experience, our subconscious mind thinks that our life is in danger. So it leaves a stronger imprint in our subconscious mind. So for example, you're growing up and I have this vivid memory of my mum on the couch sitting with a £20 note. And as a child, I'm thinking that's the only money that mum has. She's upset. She's got letters. Obviously, I'm perceiving them as maybe tax or whatever it is. So experiences like that, what they done for me and Jack was we seen money and that was the experience that we had. And we had this negative emotion that was stress or it was scarcity or it was anger, frustration. Maybe it was our mum and dad arguing over money. So our subconscious mind forms this association with money. So that negative emotion, stress, and money are paired together. A really important thing to understand about the subconscious mind, and even let's think about the conscious mind. So you've got two parts of your mind in this concept where you've got the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is a very small part of your mind. I want you to think about an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is the conscious mind, and the huge bit under the water that you don't see is the subconscious mind. So most of your mind is made up of this subconscious mind. And a really important thing to understand about the subconscious mind is that it's completely irrational and it controls most of your automatic behaviors. So the thing that controls most of your automatic behaviors doesn't make any fucking sense. So it's actually very dangerous if this subconscious mind has associations, has beliefs stored in it that doesn't align with what you consciously want. So you can consciously want to be a millionaire. You want all the success in the world. You might consciously believe that money will give you freedom and make you feel happy. But if you've grew up and you've had experiences or you've observed money being scarce, money being stressful, your subconscious mind will form these associations that money is stressful. So what happens? Why is this relevant? Well, then you'll start to feel this resistance, but it won't be conscious because you know that money will give you freedom. You'll start to experience this resistance in forms of self-sabotage, procrastination, inconsistency. And ultimately, that's where a lot of people are stuck because they've got this invisible ceiling between them and their financial targets. And this inconsistency, this self-sabotage, is your subconscious mind not aligning with what you consciously want, because as you go through life, you form these subconscious associations by the experiences and the observations you're exposed to. So as you go through life and you have these subconscious associations form, because they're repeated patterns, without even knowing it, you make an unconscious decision to believe that money is hard. Because our brain doesn't really like open loops. Our brain likes to form a belief if we consistently see something. Without even knowing it, you might be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and you form this belief that money is hard. And then that belief will stay in your mind, your subconscious mind, and you'll start to go through life. And the longer that belief stays in your mind, it will become a part of your identity. And we have this part of our brain called the reticular activating system. And it literally filters reality through the filter of your mind and through what you believe to be true. So if you've picked up these subconscious associations, you've formed these subconscious associations that money is stressful, then and you form these beliefs, then all you'll see in life is reasons to back up. You'll use a thing called confirmation bias to find evidence that money is hard to make. And that's why a lot of people, when you say out loud, I'm going to make £1 million, you might right now, as you're watching this, think of all the reasons of why it's hard to make £1 million. But that's because of beliefs that have been stored in your subconscious mind without you even knowing it. You've actually decided to believe that. So why is this important? Why is this powerful? Well, because if you can understand that you were born with no associations tied to money, and then you learned this, and you unconsciously chose to believe that money was hard to make, then what you can do is you can become conscious by asking the right questions. Okay, what are my core experiences where I had a negative, emotionally intense experience that was related to money? You can start to list all these experiences. I see my mum cry. We went for shopping and we couldn't afford this. We're shopping for school clothes or shoes and we didn't get what we wanted. You can start to list all these experiences. And then as you bring these unconscious and subconscious experiences and beliefs that you formed into the conscious awareness, they start to lose their power because you make them conscious. You become aware of them. And just the power of making the unconscious conscious, as Carl Jung would say, gives you so much control, gives you so much power. And when you do that, what you can start to do is, there's a few tools that I use with my clients, but this is a very simple way to put it as I'm talking to you right now. You can start to then think, right, cool, if I unconsciously made a decision to believe that money was hard, and now I'm conscious of that, you can then consciously decide to believe that money isn't hard. You're going to have a thought in your head, though, that might go, okay, well, that's not that easy. I can't just consciously decide that. But that is the belief that money's hard, wanting to stay alive. In esoteric wisdom, there's this perspective that beliefs are actually entities. They're living beings that want to take up mental real estate in your mind. So they convince you that they're the truth. But when you understand this, the truth is nothing more than beliefs wearing a mask. Let me give you an example. To someone, 10K a month is very good. It's a very good wage. But to someone else, if they made 10K a month, they've absolutely fucked it. They're on the bones of their arse. They have no money, and essentially they're going downhill. What one is the truth? Well, there's a law in Hermetic philosophy, and the Kabbalion's a really good book to read, and it's called the law of polarity, and it states that all truths are but half-truths. When you look at this example of 10K a month being good for someone and bad for someone else, they're both halves of the same truth. So what dictates what the truth is? Well, it's decided by what beliefs are wearing a mask. So when you start to understand this, that beliefs are the truth is just beliefs wearing a mask, you start to question the beliefs that you have around money and understand where you've unconsciously decided that money was hard, then consciously decide to believe that money is not hard to make. So that's a very powerful piece of awareness that can actually start to give you more control. But the thing is, if you do this yourself, your ego is going to be very, very present, and you're going to actually have this, you're likely going to have this internal battle when you try and do this on your own. And that's why my clients come to me, because you can sit and ask yourself the right questions, or try to, but likely your ego's going to filter it because these beliefs have been formed since you were a child and they've been in your mind for so long that it's actually quite hard to challenge yourself because it's became your identity. So that's why my clients come to me, because the external questions I can ask them will allow them to internally question themselves more, which allows them to start finding out the answers and the awareness around where these beliefs actually came from and why they're actually not the truth.
To give a little bit of context, fucking 10-minute, not a ramble.
I can
it's quite good.
also explain how I get rid of these
I
unconscious
can build
beliefs.
context as well. So to build context, I'm one of Kyle's clients, and we were on an awareness call around the money blocks that I have. And it's interesting because we're twins, and we have the same mental blocks, but Kyle being able to look at me from an objective perspective, an outsider's perspective, and see and question where my mental blocks are with money was interesting, because I went back to memories in my life where we were shopping and my mum had a little fucking pouch of coins. She was digging in for the exact change to pay for the shopping. Little things like that, asking to get certain things, certain food for shopping. It was like there was always a bit of restriction around things outside of the essentials. And that created such a level of scarcity in my mind. So, and stress associated with money. So interestingly enough, I would say I've hit a little ceiling in my business that I'm starting to break through come this new year. And being aware of that association with money being associated to stress, being able to reframe that and almost take away the belief that to make more money entails more stress, allows me to now live in abundance and think about making more money and actually associate more money with relief, with less stress through being consciously aware of that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the esoteric meaning of a belief as an entity. It's like we think between 4,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. So imagine there's been 15, 20 years of your life went by and you've been thinking those beliefs on a daily basis, weekly, monthly basis. Think about every thought being a stone and you drop that stone. Tens of thousands, hundreds, millions of fucking stones have been dropped to back up that belief in your mind and create a big presence, a big entity in your mind around that belief that you hold. So that is why it is something that has been quite hard for, I think, anyone that develops. They're trying to get away from those old beliefs and form new ones. And it's quite hard because there is a lot of presence in your own mind around those old beliefs that you hold. And that's where the ego tries to attach itself to. But I think you should explain synaptic pruning because...
Well, yeah, it feels hard. That's the thing you need to understand. It feels hard. It feels like you don't have control. It feels like it's not as simple as just making a decision, but it actually is. Like, it genuinely, beliefs are decisions. Because at some point you didn't even know it and you decided to believe that thing. It's the same way you can just now decide to not believe it. But again, I understand that obviously, like you said,
say you decide not to believe it.
right?
So like say
If you
I'm
decide
not going
not
to
to
believe everything I've learned for the last 20 years anymore.
Yeah,
Well, then
so-
what next?
So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So you can consciously decide not to believe it, right? But when Jack's obviously, you're asking about synaptic pruning.
Synaptic pruning.
So when you consciously make a decision not to believe it, right? Sometimes it's not enough because of how strong these old pathways actually are, right? So this is where I've personally been getting into hypnosis and hypnotherapy recently and deep subconscious reprogram with my clients. So ultimately, Jack spoke about synaptic pruning there. So synaptic pruning is the process of your brain not deleting, but when you stop charging the old beliefs and the old pathways and the old programs, they start to become inactive. And then when they become inactive, they start to prune. So your brain starts to, you could say delete, but it's almost like they start to
Become inactive.
they become inactive first by you not charging them, and charging them means like being emotional and emotionally charging the pathways. So pruning is just the process of them becoming weaker and starting to kind of die off essentially. So that happens when you consciously decide that belief isn't actually your belief. Then that initial decision is more powerful than you can imagine. Like people, this is where just becoming conscious, you can't take for granted just becoming conscious of that, because most people don't ever become conscious of it. So like when you get to the point of going, oh, I actually understand that unconscious belief or that decision to believe that was made by me when I was younger from these experiences. See, getting to that level of awareness, you can't take that for granted. As soon as you bring this problem that you've had unconsciously to here and you've made it conscious, you have control. That is enough to have control, 100%. But you can use powerful tools to reprogram your subconscious mind even more. That's why I'm starting to really get into hypnosis and learn how to really do this. But the work that I'm doing with my clients recently, I've been doing hypnosis with them, but I've been doing a session of guided visualizations that is allowing them to get into what's called theta, which is a really relaxed state. Theta brainwaves is the state that your brain gets into. And what happens in this state, there's a concept in hypnosis or hypnotherapy where you've got this filter in your mind called the critical faculty. And ultimately, you've got the conscious mind and you've got the subconscious mind. And in between, you've got this filter called the critical faculty. This is what they call it in hypnosis. And this critical faculty is like your analytical mind rejecting new beliefs, new suggestions. So, for example, this is where when Jack said, what if you just do consciously make that decision to not believe in it? Sometimes that can't just be enough for people. A lot of the time, that's why I use these tools, hypnosis and the visualizations and the kind of things that I'm doing with clients, is because when you get into theta, which is a really relaxed state, the critical faculty, that filter in your mind, starts to loosen. And the suggestibility, right, starts to go up for these new beliefs, these new ideas, and the resistance to accepting them starts to go down. So this filter between your conscious mind and the subconscious mind, it starts to loosen as you get into more of a relaxed state. So if I said to you right now, imagine right now, hypothetically, you're making 10K a month. If I said next month you're going to make 100K, you would reject that likely. You'd be like, nah, it's not possible, Kyle. That's your critical faculty, that filter in your mind, the analytical mind, rejecting that new suggestion that I'm giving you. And the reason why it does that is because the critical faculty almost likes to protect the identity that you've got currently stored in your subconscious mind. It likes to maintain consistency with the current identity that you've got. Because anything new, any new identity is not familiar. So your subconscious mind, anything that's not familiar, it doesn't feel safe. Your nervous system doesn't feel safe. Because anything that's new and not familiar, it's not predictable. And what does it mean when things aren't predictable? You don't have control. What happens when you don't have control? You're not as safe. What happens? Your subconscious mind's irrational. It thinks you actually might die by becoming this new version of yourself. It's irrational. It doesn't even make sense. So, what the fuck was I saying? The critical faculty. So, the hypnosis, the sessions that I'm doing with my clients, when you get into this really relaxed state, it's called trance state. Essentially, what I'm doing with them is I'm creating a custom hypnosis track for them that's directly aligned with the identity of the person that they want to become. So in these really relaxed state and trance state, when we're doing the guided work, when they're in that relaxed state, I'm giving them these new suggestions, this new identity. And because they're relaxed, this critical faculty, this filter of their mind is loosened, it's more open. The subconscious mind starts to accept this new identity, this new suggestion in that relaxed state. So I've had clients, again, consciously reject making 50K a month, for example. And then we do the hypnosis session, they get into this trance state, and then they're emotional and they've got tears in their eyes with their mum congratulating them on them making 50K. Because when you're in this relaxed trance state, you're more suggestible, the suggestibility goes up, and the resistance starts to come down. None of this is absolute, but the likelihood of you being more suggestible goes a lot higher when you're in these relaxed states. So I'll give you an example of how this has actually worked recently with one of my clients. One of my clients, say names, it's probably not good, is it? One of my clients, I'll call him D, right? Boys don't know who it is, but I'll call him D. And ultimately, since I met D, he's just had this resistance around being himself. You could tell there was the way to explain it was almost like he had this soft limiter on his voice. And I actually said to him, bro, have you ever shouted loud? Have you ever fucking, like, as a man, shouted loud? And he was like, I actually haven't since primary school. So we understood that in primary school, he acted as himself, he was expressive, he was authentic, and someone shut him down, someone made him feel shit for it, or he got told, someone made him feel silly for it, right? So what he learned and what he unconsciously decided in that moment was, being myself isn't safe, right? So as a child, right, because when you're between the ages of 0 and about 8 years old, you're in this theta brainwave state, you're most of the time you're operating in theta. So you're just suggestible to anything that you learn. It just goes into your subconscious mind and it forms as a belief or association.
You don't have a conscious mind at that stage, do you?
You don't really operate consciously at all. You're pretty much mostly in theta. So as that experience happened when he was younger, and that negative, emotionally intense experience, he created this subconscious association, like I spoke about at the start, that being himself equaled danger, equaled stress, equaled sadness. So for his whole life, up from when he was like 7 up until now, he's like 22, he wasn't being himself. 4 days into doing the hypnosis tracks, he said, Kyle, I've just noticed, consciously he's noticed, but without trying, he's speaking more expressively. And what actually happened was, I jumped on a call with him on Friday night. And we usually have our weekly call on a Tuesday, but he couldn't make it. So I just phoned him on Friday night. And he came onto the call and he was speaking differently. He was expressing his words differently. The start and the end of his words sounded different. I thought he had a different accent. I said, are you actually trying to do this? Like, is this something you're trying to do? And he said, no, I've just noticed I'm more expressive. I'm more authentic. I feel more confident. I'm not doubting myself. I feel more energetic. I'm closing more sales calls. All of this is happening because the work that we're doing when he's in this relaxed state, he's opened up in this relaxed state, the new suggestions of being himself, being expressive, being more confident. And what actually happened in our first hypnosis session that we done was he actually went back into the memories of all of those times where he tried to be himself and it didn't make him feel good. But because in that state, he was in a very, very positive emotional state, his subconscious mind created positive associations to those experiences, and subconsciously, because he's now got positive associations to those experiences, the negative ones aren't the main associations attached to him being himself. So what's happened subconsciously, without consciously putting any effort in, he's just started to be more of himself. So we've literally, within 4 days of doing these tracks, doing it in the morning, doing it at nighttime, he's rewired his subconscious mind to just start being himself again. And that is the powerful thing about the work that I'm doing, is it literally rewires the subconscious part of you that controls your automatic behaviors. Subconscious means that it operates below your conscious awareness. So there's things in your subconscious mind that's creating resistance, procrastination, self-sabotage. Jack spoke about the work that we've been doing together. Jack has had no resistance towards high ticket. Jack's never sold high ticket in his life. But as soon as we started to work together and become aware of the money associations and these kind of things and what was a lot of money to him subconsciously, because consciously we would say we're going to be multi-millionaires, hundreds of millions, completely unlimited. But subconsciously he did not believe that. So there was a bit of procrastination. How little did you start procrastinating? How much more work did you just get done when you were in the state after the hypnosis?
Yeah, there was just less resistance towards
content, everything.
There was less resistance towards things there was once resistance to. But like when it comes to like subconscious not believing we're going to be millionaires, no, I believe for a long fucking time that we're going to see a lot of money, but
consciously did.
Consciously.
Subconsciously, we still had ties to that's a lot of money until we moved them recently.
Okay. Yeah.
Subconsciously, below your conscious awareness.
Yeah. So, but yeah, 100%. I've not sold any sort of high ticket offers, and I'm now looking at 5-figure high ticket offers I'm going to be offering, and I've already spoke to people about onboarding them, because I think one thing is, right, cool, is who you sell to. That's one thing I've realized in business and in business in general. Who you sell to will determine how much money you can fucking charge, because a lot of these 7-8-figure entrepreneurs that we're connecting with, they want to pay more money, because to them, if they pay more money, they're more invested in they're in their head, more accountable to actually do the work they're paying for. So I think the biggest thing is changing who we're selling to, or changing who I'm selling to, which has given me less resistance. But through the work that I've done with yourself, the hypnosis track, genuinely going into such a state and being told to feel the gratitude of earning the money on a monthly basis, working with the 6-7-figure business owners, like genuinely being in such a state where I'm emotionally feeling those things happen. And obviously, as some may know, your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between your imagination and reality. So everyone watching this has had a dream, and it's felt so fucking real until they've woke up and they're like, fuck, it wasn't real. But it felt so real. And that is that's probably a good little analogy to give to the fact that your imagination can feel just as real as a lived experience. And that's what Kyle's allowing you to do through the hypnosis work. And that's why subconsciously, if you believe it, then if you look into the deeper principles of metaphysics, metaphysical law, which is universal laws that exist outside of this physical reality. I don't know if we went into this a little bit. They need to correspond with the emotions that you charge and live with. Like there is an actual law of correspondence, as above, so below. We should go deep into the Kabbalion at some point. But since I've been doing that, ideas, opportunities, people have been coming into my life. And whether it's a part of your brain, the reticular activating system that filters reality based on your beliefs, or it's the fucking universe sending magic people into your life, regardless, doesn't matter a fuck. It all checks out. It all checks out, and it's all happening. Like, we're going to LA at the end of the month. Never been to America in my life. Never thought I'd be going to America, like, in fucking the first month of this year. But we're going to America, and we're going to be meeting 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs. And what's interesting, right, is like, a quote came into my head. I was speaking to my boy Robbie. Extremity expands capacity. Extremity expands capacity. So knowing that I'm going to LA and knowing that the title that I've been carrying is like a sports therapist, but understanding the work I'm doing now exceeds sports therapy. It's fucking so beyond that. I don't even know why I'm still calling myself that. I'm now starting to think and stretch my mind to, right, I'm going to LA. I'm going to be introducing myself to 6, 7, 8 figure entrepreneurs. Am I going to just say I rub cunts for a living? That's not what I do. I don't just do massage. Now I actually offer specialized recovery optimization for performance. There's so many deeper layers to the work I do now through my expertise and the thousands of hours I've devoted. But what my point is, by necessity, Kyle was living in flow state, and not by necessity, things started to basically happen where Kyle felt intuitively aligned to book this trip to LA. Then I decided to go, right, cool, I'll come as well. And now this opportunity to grow alongside the beliefs I'm now holding through the hypnosis work, I'm now starting to, there's opportunities now coming into my life that I don't think would have came about if we both were not living in the state of what we're trying to live in.
Not everything comes from the state. And it's the work, the hypnosis sessions, tracks that I'm giving my clients. When I spoke earlier about the critical faculty, and that's a term from hypnosis, so it's not like a scientific term, but it makes sense. And you could, in other scientific lenses, it's like the critical mind, the analytical mind and stuff, right? But that, when I spoke about earlier how it tries to maintain consistency with who you are subconsciously, and your nervous system doesn't feel safe, when you emotionally experience being the guy, like Jack's doing this every single morning, feeling what it's like to already have the success, your nervous system starts to become safe. And as you exist in that state, the resistance that you had before to take the action that you should, it drops. All of my I've got a client meet up, a mastermind in a week's time, next Saturday actually, week tomorrow, and there's going to be about 17 boys on camera speaking about their experience. I'm so excited to put this out, because when you see other boys that are like, they were making, say, 2K a month, 5K a month, now they're smashing 5-figure months, they're flying towards 6-figure months. It's because of the work that they're doing, right? But a really good thing that Jack spoke about was state. And everything comes from your state, right? I don't even know if I want to go into like the primal state, creative state, go into that, we could. I actually want to mention something even more powerful and sick that I've learned this week, or been reinforced to this week, and it's the frame that you put on life, the frame that you put on reality, and it's the worldview that you hold, and the frame that you put on things, and what you expect. So this cool thing where your expectations set the standards, and the standards set the what is it? The standards set the boundaries, and then the boundaries create the perception. That's it. So the expectations, what you expect, set the standards that you set for yourself, and then those standards set the boundaries, and those boundaries create the perception. So if you start to expect things are going to go better, things are going to go better in my life, or you start to expect, like, because I'm the best at what I do, everyone's going to be wanting to work with me, that expectation starts to set the standards. So you start to live up to those standards. You start to live up to the version of you that expects that. And then those expectations and standards set the boundaries, and then the perception of how you see life. So those boundaries are like, if I believe I'm the best, right? I believe that there's millionaires that want to work with me because I can help rewire their mind. Right? That sets the standard. So I now need to operate like that guy. I need to post the content like that guy. I need to study. I study for hours a day on my work, every single day, hours a day. That's why I'm confident in what I do, because I actually spend hours a day teaching it, preaching it, and practicing it. So that's the standards. And then the boundaries are, well, I've got no boundaries. I'm going to be charging £1 million of work for £1 million for 10 sessions for my work. I'm going to be working with A-list celebrities, top athletes in the world, because that's the boundaries that I'm setting with the standards that I set for myself in my life. And then and then that creates my perception. That creates then how I perceive the world and the opportunities that I can then see. That's sick. Whatever frame that you put on, whatever you expect, will literally set the standards that you then operate on. So the point I'm making here is, start expecting the best for yourself. If you truly, really do have an imagination that shows you more in your life, that imagination, if you're religious or not, that imagination and that vision has been given to you for a reason, for you to fulfill physically in your life. There's some people that don't have an imagination or a vision past working in Tesco, working in the co-op. It's because they're not supposed to fulfill anything more than that in life. I believe everyone has the potential, but if you've got a vision, watching this podcast, you're likely going to have a big vision. You're supposed to fulfill that. And what will bring that from, Jack said earlier about the law of cause and effect from the Hermetic principles, what will bring that from the mental plane into the physical is aligned action. But how do you take that aligned action if you've got subconscious programs that are holding you back? Well, maybe you pay someone like me £97 a month to get access to a group that's going to unlock your subconscious mind, an app low ticket, £97 a month. That's fucking mental. But imagine you could pay £97 a month to get access to resources that can help you unlock your subconscious mind. £97 a month. People paying tens of thousands for this work.
It's mental. A life-changing realization I've came to recently, though, off the back of all of the deeper work I've been doing, the books I've been reading, the videos I've been watching, is understanding that we all have this gut instinct feeling of almost or the truth that we know to be true. And a lot of the things that you will create resistance around and overthink and maybe stall on acting on is because you overthink it. The decision goes to your mind. You start to scramble that decision. And then what was once such a clear decision and answer and truth is now like, fuck, do I do it? Do I not? What if that? What if this? So one thing I've really been living with recently that's changed my whole life, and this year's going to be amazing and beautiful because of this being a really big realization, is listening to your heart. And I think Jude, our little baby brother, was talking to us about understanding that the brain actually has the heart actually has neural circuits in it that process emotion. So there actually is potentially this function of the heart that processes emotion. And like,
is it neurocircuits? Neurocircuits. Brain, though.
I know. That's what I'm saying. There's actual neurocircuits in your heart. I'll ChatGPT it and I'll proof check it by the end of the podcast. But no, I'm pretty sure that's the thing. Regardless, people feel that kind of gut instinct that comes almost from I'm a very visual person. I feel it almost come from the center of my mass, like the center of my body. I feel like the truth, and it feels like a relieving decision until I let it fester. It goes to my mind. I overthink it, and then I either don't make the decision, or I make the decision a lot harder than it needs to be, or create resistance, and that's likely the ego tying me to maybe past beliefs or whatever, right? But listening to your heart and following that, and just the first answer that you always say, that Kay always says, the first answer is the right answer, the correct answer. If you understand
if you're in the right state.
If you're in the right state, well, the state will determine what the first answer is, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to be in the right state. And what determines your state, the thoughts and feelings that you emotionally charge. So you need to then have
or your environment.
You need to then have this kind of desirable person that you want to think and feel like. If you're not in the reality you want to be in, you need to, which a lot of people aren't. Like, we're all mentally, what me and Kyle are doing, are mentally existing as people that we're physically not, because your current situation is a reflection of your past thoughts, your past beliefs. So to change that, you need to change your thoughts in the present.
Moment is old news.
So with that being said, right, let's say you're in the right state. Let's say you've realized the person you want to become. How does he think? How does he feel? How does he act? And then you're starting to align your state with that person, right? You could call it a frequency. Like, to not get too lofty, but this is actually quite a cool thing to think about. Every thought you think carries a level of vibration. That level of vibration can be referred to as frequency. That frequency will start to determine the intuition that you carry. So like that gut instinct that you have. So correct thoughts and feelings, correct frequency, correct intuition, and then the little mental nudges and the little hunches that you start to get will align with that frequency. And what's cool about that is if you just fucking listen to it, don't overthink it, you know what is true, the first answer is the correct answer if you're in the right state, you'll start to just see things play out the way they're meant to be. And one thing I've realized is it always ends up being better than I expected to be, which is quite cool. Like, just really listening to your heart and letting things flow. Like, when you feel like there's no resistance in your life and you're making decisions and it feels like things are just flowing, that's when you know you're in the right state and you're aligned with your values. Because I think a lot of us act out of alignment with our values. And another thing to go on to that is like your health, for example. Take away your health, you've got nothing. You fucking actually have nothing. A lot of us live in misalignment with our health. A lot of us are not even maybe consciously aware of the decisions we're making that contradicts good health. And if we're all honest, that is something that we do value when it comes to it. At the end of the day, when you fall ill, all you want to be is not ill. When you fucking have a cough, you're like, I just wish I could breathe through my fucking nose again. Like, but it's interesting that us being habitual creatures, we will normalize the current state we're in, and anything that is not immediately dangerous to us we'll kind of take for granted. i.e. our health. So a lot of my clients don't come in until there's pain, until they've fucked their shoulder, fucked their neck, fucked their back. And then they're like, oh, Jack, I need to book in. I've got one of my guys that always books in like every 3 to 4 months. Oh, fuck my back again. Because he's just not doing the mobility and he's not doing the things that are essentially proactive to prevent the problem. But the point is that, yeah, once you start to align yourself with your values, things feel easier. And you do feel like you're actually flowing. I was going to make a point about health there.
I'm going to speak about, I know you were kind of fucking fucked it. Health's
I
important.
dipped my toe back in
Health
and
as
came
well.
back out.
Health as well. 100%.
One thing I want to just quickly talk about, a client win that happened in the last couple of months. He joined my mobility app. He was dealing with back pain, debilitating back pain for 8 years. 8 years he had to keep changing jobs. He couldn't even play outside with his kids. And as I said, simple daily tasks throughout the house, he couldn't even do that. He started to feel like less of a man until he joined my app, my mobility app. And inside just a week, his back pain was gone. Now, my app is not a miracle, but what that starts to tell you is what you expose your body to, it will adapt to. So once he fucked his back 8 years ago, he fell into this belief that his back was so sensitive, he didn't want to do anything. He rested. And the more that happened, the more he started to develop such a volatile relationship with the pain he felt in his back. And it got to a point where he was bedbound and he could not, as I say, even play with his kids for 8 years. Had to change jobs. It really, really, really badly affected his life until he came across me. We got to work, and inside a week, his back pain was gone. If that's not a testament to just exposing your body to the right movement, I don't know what is. Join the More Life Maintenance app, £22 a month.
I think it'd be so valuable to quickly speak about the like states and like what the state is, right? So through the this kind of lens, there's 2 states, and you can call it the primal state, the powerful state, or the survival state, the creative state. I refer to when I'm teaching it to my clients the primal state and the creative state. That's what I say with the 2 states of being. You can only be in one state of being and one state at once. The 2, would you say like neuroscience lens states, how they would be referred to would be the parasympathetic nervous state and the sympathetic nervous state. Parasympathetic, calm, relaxed, digestion. The sympathetic is fight or flight, like stressful, right? So the parasympathetic state, the creative state, the sympathetic state, the primal state. When you're in a primal state, stressed, anxious, overthinking, doubt, anger, fear, these kind of things. When you're in a creative state, you're love, peace, joy, gratitude, abundance. And think about it, you cannot feel truly grateful and angry at the same time. So you can only be in one state really at once. The thing that is so powerful and the reason why the state is literally everything, if you can master your state, you can master your reality, you can master your results. Think about how you would feel if you had the life that you want. You'd be in a creative state. You'd have the love, you'd have the peace, you'd have the joy, you'd have the gratitude. You really had the life that you wanted. So if you can get yourself into this powerful state, this creative state, it's going to then allow you to take the right actions naturally. Because if you cannot take the wrong actions in the wrong state, it started to become very simple to me as to why clients don't do the right thing. And it's because they're in the wrong state. When they're in the wrong state, they'll take the wrong actions. They're feeling scarcity, if they're feeling fear, they'll do things that are based on that state. So if you can get yourself into the right state, the right mental and emotional state, the actions will become a byproduct of the state that you're in. With the work that we've been doing recently with Jack, when Jack does the hypnosis track, when he gets into the right state, that's what we mean. Jack is feeling the gratitude, the complete confidence, the conviction, the relief of everything happening. Then when Jack wakes up, or not wakes up because you don't go to sleep, but when Jack comes out, when he gets counted down in the track and he comes out of the hypnosis track that we do, he exists in that state because he starts the day with that state. He exists in that state. And every action, just when Jack was saying about the intuition, you then just intuitively, if you're in the right state, you know what to do. And if you've got the awareness to know that your intuition will give you the right answer as long as you're in the right state, you can just listen to what feels good. Listen to what feels good. Because you always feel what you should do. You always know in here before you think about it. And when it gets here, Jack said, it scrambles. You get to that state where you're scrambled. So that's the kind of 2 states. When we're referring to state, it's essentially the emotional state that you're in. But through a metaphysical law, like the law of vibration, which is the primary law, the secondary law is the law of attraction, you like attracts like. That's what the law of attraction states. And when it means that, it means like the vibration or the frequency that resonates with your state, your frequency, your vibration, you will attract that into your life. So if think about it, you know people that are angry, that are sad, that are victims
Why
and
always
everything
me?
shit. Why always me? Negative primal state in this scenario. What does their life look like? It's fucking shit, right? And again, can people be rich? Can people have money and be in a primal state? Yeah,
I was gonna say primal state though. Like when you're doing mundane tasks X, Y, Z, are you in a creative state doing that? Can you be? Is
What's
a
a
primal
mundane
state
task?
fucking admin or editing a video or anything that just requires like just things you need to do?
Is
Of
it taking you towards the life you want?
course.
You'd feel good then.
So you're in a creative state
All the fucking
full-
time. All the
right,
fucking time.
So that's my question.
Master your state, master your reality. If you're in
So
a
you don't need to tap into the primal state ever.
no, you will. As a human, you'll fall into a stressful state. But if you can truly master your state with the things that I teach,
Because is there not tasks you need to do that require no emotion? If you know what I mean.
there's nothing that you will do that will move you towards the life that you want that requires being in a primal state. No. Not in what I teach. There's a way to do it like that. So the hustle and grind mindset is you just do it regardless of how you feel. But my thing and what I teach is you can use the power of your mind to get into the right state to then move forward. Think about it, right? Imagine you come out of a good state. You feel stressed, you feel negative, and then you take some deep breaths and you get into a parasympathetic state. You downregulate your nervous system, and then you start to visualize and attach your attention and focus to the right thing. You're going to feel good. You don't need to exist in a negative primal state. That's like what we got taught off of one of the mentors we work with.
Are all primal states negative though?
Yeah, every primal state. When you're in a primal state, in this model of the two states of being,
It's survival, isn't it?
primal's negative, fear, doubt. You genuinely don't see the whole David Goggins grind and feel shit but do it anyway. You don't need, that's not what I
You don't need
teach.
to.
I
Nah,
don't
I don't
teach that.
agree.
You don't, because we wake up, you do the fucking hypnosis, you feel amazing all fucking day, and if you feel shit at any point in the day, you go into the alignment protocol that I've got in the subconscious reprogram section of the success system, and you can use tools to get you back into the right state. I do not agree at any point that you need to be in a primal negative state at any point in your life. As a human, will you come out of a state of creativeness and this positive state? Yeah, you'll fall out of it, because what if someone dies? You cannot control how you feel. You're going to feel fucking shit if someone dies straight away, 100%, right? So that's going to happen naturally, but if you've got the ability and the awareness and the mindfulness to get back into a good state, you can spend most of your life in a good state as long as you've got these tools. And the thing that Jack said earlier about we intuitively had this truth that we align with, if you are feeling shit, right? So imagine this. This is how I help my clients control their state. And one of my clients, Leo, came on board with me recently. And Leo came to me and he said, I'm making about 5 to 10K a month. Within the first week of working together, he made 5K in like 3 days, right? And it's because he switched the state. If you're in a negative state, the thing that I would really urge you to do is just the next time you feel shit, notice, right, that you're in that state, because it's easy to notice. Everyone will say, and you would say, well, I'll ask you right now, Jack, is it easy to notice when you feel shit?
Of course.
So you feel this shit feeling, right? And a really powerful thing to do, this is like a living meditation that you can do. David Bear, really, really powerful guy, is one of the guys that I learned this from. When you're in a negative state, notice what you're thinking about in that state. And notice that what you're thinking about, right? Notice what you're thinking about is likely going to be something that isn't true. 100% of the time, in fact, when you're feeling shit and you notice what you're thinking about whilst you're feeling shit, you'll be thinking, oh, this might not go right. This might go wrong. This person thinks this. I think you'll be thinking something that's completely false. And Jack mentioned earlier, we have this intuitive truth that we align with. Anytime you don't feel good, you're likely thinking about something that's not true. Anytime you feel fear, you're literally programming yourself, you're convincing yourself that something exists that doesn't actually exist. So the same way you can do it for fear, you can do it for the positive one. But notice when you feel shit, analyze your thinking. Use metacognition. Right? There's, again, what I teach is level 3 of conscious awareness, the ability to observe your thoughts, use metacognition, notice what you're thinking about, and even better than that, notice what beliefs that you must hold in order for those thoughts to be true. And then you'll start to notice what's subconscious. That's a very good way to understand and identify your limiting beliefs, is if you keep thinking this won't go right, well, what am I thinking this won't go right about? Is it about being successful? Is it about making money? Well, cool. If I am thinking that, and without even, because consciously you don't want to feel shit, so it's subconsciously you start to think this. If I'm thinking that without even trying, and it's just something that's happening subconsciously, what subconscious beliefs do I have that must support that thinking? And then you can actually start to identify limiting beliefs in your subconscious mind just by being more mindful. If you're in a really, really primal state, really, really stressed out, that may not work. If I said to you, think positive when you're raging, you tell me to fuck off and you'll probably try and hit me, right? A really good way, and one of the quickest ways to come out of that primal state, is to move. So I've got a little state alignment protocol, a wee quick one for my clients to use, and one of my clients done it the other day. Press ups to failure, some breath work, some parasympathetic breath work, positive affirmations, like a positive saying that you use, and then visualize being in the right state. Visualize what it looks like, what it feels like to be in the right state and to act in the right way, and then taking aligned action off the back of that. That movement, that breath work is going to downregulate your nervous system, get you back into a parasympathetic state, and allow you to direct your thoughts and attention in the right way, which will then make you feel good and then get back to acting as you should.
It's important to state and reinforce, though, that you say metacognition. Like when you feel something, your thoughts precede your feelings. So whether it's unconsciously or not, you have chose to emotionally charge a thought that's in your mind. So one thing in my journey of self-mastery and really understanding my mind and how it works is understanding that when you think something, you are not your thoughts. You genuinely can choose to observe the thought that comes into your head and then choose to emotionally charge it or not. For example, you're mentally trying to exist as this guy, but in your physical life, you get proof that you're not that guy. So you get to then choose, does that thought that comes into my head or that proof in my physical life that makes me think a certain thought, am I going to let that make me feel a certain way? Or am I going to use my awareness, my will and focus to place it on the gratitude of being that guy? Because again, your subconscious mind does not know what is true. You're consciously accepting what is true and what you are impressing on your subconscious emotional mind. So thoughts, as you're trying to develop into this guy, thoughts of doubt will come into your head. They will. Because you're physically living in a life where you're not mentally. So physically you will get proof in your life that you're not that guy that you're trying to be mentally, or you're not that girl that you're trying to be mentally. So it's important to understand that just observe those thoughts. Let them be there. Let them pass. Understand that that is just what will happen because you're living a physical reality right now that you are not mentally. So there will be levels of, there will be thoughts in your head that conflict how you're trying to exist mentally. But you get to choose if you emotionally charge that thought or not. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a principle or a concept in Hermetic philosophy called mental transmutation, which in layman's terms is placing your will and focus on the desired thing that you want to place will and focus on. So going back to the principle of polarity, all truths are but half truths. It's kind of mad to actually deep that one principle because the law of polarity does genuinely state that you're only ever half right and you are then also half wrong to a degree. Like you're half right, half wrong. So in a situation where you initially do maybe feel negative, you can use your will and focus to place it on a positive thought or a positive feeling. But the cool thing about what Kyle's work does is it gives context to what that positive is, right? So if you're in a physical situation that you don't want to be in, you need to create the positive situation that you want to be in, or else you will have no context in your head to resort to when it comes to going against the proof that you're seeing physically in your life. So that's an interesting...
So you need to have a vision, is that what you're saying?
It's really good to have a vision of who you want to become, and that's obviously the visualizations that Kyle helps you do. It's interesting also to talk about the fact that, say you get to that really financially successful place, just because this is my industry and what I do, it's easy to get caught up in business and success and really pushing forward financially. But what you do not want to neglect genuinely is prioritizing your health. Like me and Kyle are in really good physical health. A lot of the time we probably could be further forward in our business. We probably could to a degree, but we've chosen to delegate time towards eating properly, sleeping properly, working out properly. And the reason being is because I know from mentors in my life, multi-millionaire mentors, one of my mentors and clients, an 8-figure entrepreneur, told me that the biggest thing that he regrets making all this money was not prioritizing his health. And I asked him, do you think if you prioritized your health more, you would have made less money? And he said, no, I would have actually made more money because it's not spending more time on my health, it's making better choices. So those better choices, how do you know what better choices to make? That's where we talk about why people like me and Kyle exist, because the industry that we exist in is so complex. There's so many moving parts. It's a never expanding industry. How do we expect you to educate yourself on everything that our work entails? That is where we were at a mastermind in London, and a point that a guy called the God of Sales, Hassan, said most of the time people are paying for accountability, right? So obviously there's a lot of underlying value and skills that comprise the services that we offer, the value that we offer, but you're paying for accountability. So for example, you've made all this money, you've got all this money, you're a 6, 7, 8 figure entrepreneur, but you've not got your health in check. That's like when a pipe goes in your house, you're not a plumber, so you call the plumber. A light goes, you call the electrician. You're not trying to fix everything. And if you are, you'll hit a ceiling. And there's only so much cognitive bandwidth you have as a successful entrepreneur that's making all this money. So you need to delegate that part of your life. And you also need to understand that if you don't make the decisions now, you will have to suffer the consequences later of poor health. Just to reinforce, my client was he's an 8-figure entrepreneur, and he genuinely regrets not prioritizing himself.
Yeah, but think about it. As a really successful person, you make all your decisions based on ROI, return on investment, ROI. You're never ever going to get a better ROI than investing in your health. Are you fuck? More energy, more productivity, more confidence, more health. You're never going to get a better ROI than investing in a professional, an expert that's going to help you not only live longer, not only feel better whilst you're alive, but get more out of the life that you're living and get more time with your family, get more time spent with the people that you love. You're never going to get better than that. You're never going to get a better ROI than that. So making the decisions that you make with business, you make that with yourself. The life that you're going to get, time is something that will run out. Your money won't because you're minted, but your time will. So ultimately, the time you get back from the money you spend on an expert like Jack.
I mean, it's like my business partner, longevity biohacker, connected to some of the greats in the industry, Wim Hof, Gary Brecka, stated that most people are living at 60 to 70% of their capacity on a daily basis. Imagine you're a 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneur, and right now, because of not prioritizing your health, you're living at that level of capacity. Imagine living at 100% of your capacity. That's what I help you do. Genuinely imagine an extra productive hour of every day. How much money would you make across the year more than what you would maybe invest with someone like me? It's actually crazy to think about. Imagine you had one more productive year of business onto the end of your life. How much money would you make? Probably a lot of fucking money. Probably 6, 7 figures, if that's the trajectory you're on.
An extra 300 hours.
Do you know what I mean? For something that is so low cost relative to the return, even just monetarily, you would get invested into a service like mine. Let's get you living longer and making more money at the same time.
So thank you for listening to the podcast. We've got a couple of minutes left. But the ultimate thing that we're here to do, and we actually live in Scotland where the fucking TV was invented. We live in a land that is fucking phenomenal. Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men to ever live, was from Scotland. And most people in Scotland do not think that they can become millionaires and have the life that they want. It's crazy. And it's the government, the elites, we've all been indoctrinated to think that we're fucking limited, and we're actually not. We're completely unlimited. And I'm on a mission to wake up millions of people in my life to know that they are fucking unlimited, 100%. And within this next year, I'm going to wake up thousands of people. Thousands of people are going to be on my app, becoming more aware, taking control of their fucking lives, because I genuinely, with so much love in my heart, want so many people to understand that they are unlimited. And as soon as that light bulb goes off in your head and you're like, fuck, I actually I'm from the land where the TV was invented. Maybe I actually can make 10K a month. Maybe I actually can have financial freedom in the life that I fucking want. That actually would fill me with so much love, and I do this out of love completely. The money is a byproduct because you guys need to invest in yourself to actually commit to something, but there's going to be so many people that are going to be woken up with the work that we're doing, and that's the ultimate purpose and fucking vision that me and Jack have, is make as many people as we can aware. Because you said there, it's accountability that you give them, but the thing that we do this podcast for, the reason why I even do what I do is to make more people aware and give them control, conscious control and influence over the life that they live. Because as I said at the start of this podcast, the very first thing that I started saying was, we're born unlimited. If I give you 50 grand cash as a fucking 3-year-old, you'd throw it off a balcony without giving a fuck, right? So ultimately, you were born unlimited. No associations, money wasn't hard to make. You learned that. As soon as you can unlearn that with the work that I'm doing, the awareness that I can give you with the services that I have, you can start to take conscious control and actually start making the money that you truly want to live the life that you want. It's not even about money. It's about you having the freedom. Everyone wants fucking freedom.
We've invested thousands of hours to date to provide a service that will genuinely give you more life, more of what you want to do in your life, more time on the end of your life, a higher quality of life as you're living it right now, more awareness, more abundance, more love, just fucking living in such a state that is more fulfilling than you could ever think of. And we're just the messengers. We're just putting in the fucking sweat equity and the hard work so that all you need to do is give us your hard-earned fucking money and have a better life with that.
Anyone that's watched the podcast to this point in the podcast, I am giving you a free one-to-one call with me. So message me on Instagram. I'll give you a free one-to-one call, give you all the awareness that I could possibly give you all the value for absolutely fucking nothing. For you watching this podcast to this point in the podcast, message me on Instagram. You know my Instagram handle if you're watching this. And I'll give you a free one-to-one call with all the love in the world.
I'll give you the blessing of booking in with me. That's all you're going to fucking get, because that's literally so good. Change your life.
See you in the next one.